When the first ray of morning sunlight shines through the window lattice, some exclaim this is the meaning of light, endowed by consciousness, while others only see the physical process of photons irradiating the retina. This divide in cognition is a classic dialogue between idealism and materialism. Idealism, a philosophical trend that runs through the history of human thought, does not anchor the world to material entities, like materialism, nor wavers between matter and consciousness, like dualism. Instead, with consciousness as the origin of the world at its core, it uses the light of speculation to outline a world view of viewing things through the mind. From Plato's world of ideas in ancient Greece to Hegel's absolute spirit in Germany, from Wang Yangming's nothing exists outside the mind in China to Berkeley's to be is to be perceived, idealism tells the eternal attempt of humans to understand the world through subjective perception, with every question about consciousness, every exploration of spirit, and every interpretation of meaning in the history of Western philosophy. The systematization of idealism began in ancient Greece. Plato was the first philosopher to establish a complete idealist system. He proposed the theory of ideas, arguing that all things in the real world, such as tables and trees, are shadows of perfect prototypes in the world of ideas. For example, the various tables in reality are imperfect copies of the idea of a table. In Plato's view, ideas are eternal, unchanging, and real existences, while the real material world is temporary, changeable, and illusory. Only by grasping ideas through reason can one obtain true knowledge. This idea of ideas preceding matter laid the theoretical foundation for Western idealism. From the 17th to the 19th century, modern idealism reached its peak of development, forming two major schools: subjective idealism and objective idealism. Subjective idealism, represented by the British philosopher George Berkeley, put forward the proposition to be is to be perceived, arguing that the existence of matter depends on human perception without human eyes to see or ears to hear. Materials like tables and stones would lose their meaning of existence. Objective idealism, with the German philosopher Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel as its culmination, constructed a philosophical system of absolute spirit. Believing that absolute spirit is the origin of the world, it exists prior to matter, and gradually externalizes into the natural world, human society, and the spiritual world through the dialectical movement of thesis-antithesis, synthesis, ultimately achieving self-knowledge. The core thought of idealism revolves around the relationship between consciousness and matter, constructing a cognitive system starting from consciousness and providing a speculative perspective different from materialism for humans to understand the world. Consciousness is primary, and matter is secondary, is the fundamental view of idealism. Idealism holds that consciousness or spirit, ideas, absolute spirit, etc., is the origin of the world, and the material world is a product or manifestation of consciousness. Whether it is the subjective idealist claim that my consciousness creates the world, or the objective idealist emphasis that objective spirit determines the world, both deny the independence of matter and regard it as subordinate to consciousness. For example, Berkeley believed that the attributes we perceive in an apple, its color, taste, and hardness, constitute the existence of the apple. Without human perception, the apple itself would not exist. Hegel, on the other hand, argued that the mountains and rivers of nature, as well as the laws and ethics of human society, are stages in the self-development of absolute spirit, and external manifestations of absolute spirit. The source of knowledge lies within consciousness itself, is an important connotation of idealism, unlike materialism, which claims that knowledge originates from practice in the material world. Idealism holds that the essence of knowledge is the reflection of consciousness on itself, or the grasp of absolute spirit. Plato believed that knowledge is the recollection of the world of ideas by the soul. The human soul once lived in the world of ideas, but after descending to the material world, it forgot this knowledge due to the bondage of the body. Through learning and reflection, one can rediscover these innate truths. This cognitive path of seeking inward emphasizes the initiative and autonomy of consciousness. Regarding cognition as a process of self-improvement of consciousness, meaning originates from the endowment of consciousness, is the unique value orientation of idealism. Idealism focuses on the meaning of the world to humans, arguing that the material world itself is meaningless, and only when consciousness endows it with emotions, values, and purposes does the world become rich and meaningful. For example, from a materialist perspective, a flower is a plant organ with a specific cellular structure capable of photosynthesis. From an idealist perspective, the beauty and symbolic meaning, such as love or hope of a flower, are endowed by human consciousness. It is precisely because of human appreciation and association that a flower transcends its material properties and becomes a being with spiritual value. This emphasis on meaning makes idealism more in line with human emotional experiences and spiritual needs, serving as an important tool for understanding humanistic fields such as art, morality, and religion. As the two major fundamental schools in the history of philosophy, idealism and materialism have always debated around the relationship between matter and consciousness. Their opposition is not an absolute conflict of either, but an exploration of the essence of the world from different dimensions, forming a relationship of mutual dialogue and complementarity. The value of idealism lies not only in the speculative depth of its theoretical system, but also in the perspective of viewing things through the mind it provides for humans, illuminating the human spiritual world and offering important insights for understanding issues such as meaning, value, and belief.